I know that it was a burden, when Joe and Marvis, Marvis trying to live up to his father and everything like that. Working with your dad, I mean, like, do those lines get blurred? The father-son fighter-trainer thing?
No, not really in boxing, because at the end of the day, man, my father is my father at home, but in here he's my trainer, and he understands it too. And I just think that worked out for us this far. Through the amateurs, a lot of people say, it's never going to work. But, we're different than all them other guys. I love my dad. I love my father. If it wasn't for my dad who paved the way for me, I wouldn't be here today. He made a name for himself. And like I said, we got Danny Day, we got Fred Jenkins. Fred Jenkins keep that, keep that line. I think, from being crossed between me and my father, because he evens everything out, which is, the patience, the persistence, and my dad understands that.
You're in a knockout streak right now.
Right.
Russell Peltz once said that the greatest one-punch knockout artist he saw in person, was your dad. I mean, that's what he was known for. I mean, how many times have you seen tapes of him, and is there a little pressure about maybe upholding that part of his legacy?
No, not really, because the pressure is off now. Me and my dad made a bet when I first turned pro. He said, I said, Dad, I think I can pass 19 straight knockouts. I think I'm gonna surpass you by 22. I think I'm going for 22 straight. And he looked at me and said, all right, the bet is on. So it was a bet, and I think it was my 4th or 5th fight at the McGonigal Hall. I hurt my hand in the first round after I dropped the kid. And ever since then, it went the distance. I won unanimously, but ever since then, I just feel the pressure was off. Everything was just, back to normal. But it was a lot of pressure on that, because I put my foot in my mouth on that with myself. I asked for that.
Did you lose anything on the bet?
No. The bet was, can I get 22 straight knockouts? No. It was just a bet that me and my dad had. His father and son bet. Just kidding around.
Jesse, Derrick Findley, kind of a step up, durable guy. He's gone distance, and like we've been talking about the knockout thing. You approach this any differently, being that that this guy's gone rounds with some name guys before?
I approach this differently. Where I'm pushing for the knockout. He survived in there with the Wards, the Durrells, the Curtis Stevenses. He survived. So to separate myself from them guys that never knocked him out, I have to knock this guy out. I have to. It's no way to separate myself, and I think I'm different. I always tell everybody I'm different than the average fighters and these guys. But to separate myself from these guys that I just named, I have to knock him out. That's what we're pushing for, and that's what we're coming up with, and that's the strategy. Fred Jenkins and my dad and everybody, we're gonna press we pressing for the knockout.
Do you ever feel like you're almost in a separate category with Top Rank? And because for a long time, Bob had mostly Mexican and Mexican-American fighters. There were big draws in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. And, lately, now he's got this China thing going, and he signed all those gold medalists from all different parts of the world.
Right.
That seems to be like his new global strategy. Right. Do you almost feel like that you're one of the few African-American fighters in his retinue, in his stable? I mean, you kind of feel like maybe a little isolated by that distinction?
No, man. Bob, when we first sat down, Bob said, I want this kid. He's going to be a superstar. I'm going to make him. He said, he's just not going to be a boxing star. I'm going to make you a superstar. And you have what the De La Hoyas had, the Floyd Mayweathers had. You seen it in me, and I was just like, wow, that's tremendous. How can you, tell this far out of my career that I have that what these guys had? And he asked me a question. He said, what's the first Mexican that was on the Wheaties box? And I looked at myself and I said, I don't know who was, and I was totally lost. He said, Oscar De La Hoya. He said, that's how big I want you to be. I just don't want you to be a boxing star. You have qualities and quantities to be a mega, mega huge superstar in the sport of boxing. I'm not going to limit you, and I'm going to take you. I'm going to let you reach them heights. That's what Bob told me himself.
One thing that is also a little bit different. When your dad fought, at one point, 4 of the top 10 middleweights in the world were from Philadelphia. There'd be fight cards at the Spectrum where 2 Philly guys would fight in front of 12, 14,000 people. That that's gone away. I don't know that I'll ever come back again. But when you think of the era, I mean, you mentioned the Philadelphia boxing history and all these posters and everything. How much has your dad talked about what it was like then, and do you kind of miss that maybe that kind of situation won't be available for you?
It's going to be available. We always talk about that. Me and my dad, we always say, you know what I mean, well, we're going to start bringing boxing back to the home capital. Once I get there, once I get that world title, you will start seeing fights, you know what I mean, at McGonigal Hall as you did, and I mean 2 years ago, last year or whatever. You will start seeing fights at their height reaching these cities because we're going to bring boxing back. And that's why I'm building up my fan base and my fan base around the world, and Bob is building me up tremendously. I love what Top Rank is doing with my career because they're trying to build it, and I got to hone my craft. He said, at the end of the day, you're going to have your city on your back, and that's what these. I'm not knocking nobody, but that's what fighters are not doing right now. No fighter is if you take a Danny Garcia, he should have had a world title. I'm not speaking bad about him, but a world title fight should have been in place for him at home. You know what I mean? But and that's what I tell Bob. Bob said, if you get a world title, we're going to put you at home once in a. We're not going to keep moving you out Las Vegas. We're going to generate you at your home stable. And I think Bob Arum, you know, I think he's true to that, and he kept his word to me of that. And I mean, God willing, we get a world title. You're gonna see a lot of me. You're gonna see a lot of me here, right here in Philadelphia.
How far away is the world title?